What if the biggest problem in your organization isn't your systems, your processes, or even your strategy? What if it's the conversations you're not having? This is Talent Talks, where we dive into the real issues shaping today's workplace. Our head of success, Emily Alvarez, recently talked with Coach James Bonds, and yes, that's his real name. He's a leadership strategist and performance coach who's built his career around one powerful truth. Real leadership growth happens when you're willing to have the conversations that make everyone uncomfortable. James brings a unique perspective to C-suite leadership and organizational culture. He believes that when you hire someone, you're responsible for their family eating, and that responsibility goes way beyond just cutting paychecks. We're diving deep into why most organizations promote the wrong people, how cultural bias shows up in ways we don't expect, and why James says it's not about tolerance, it's about understanding two very different things. This conversation gets real. We talk about colorism within communities, why your employees might be afraid to take their PTO, and how one 300 mistake taught James the most important lesson about leadership accountability. If you're ready for an honest conversation about what it really takes to build culture, lead authentically, and have the uncomfortable discussions that actually move organizations forward, this episode is for you. Let's dive in.
Thank you for joining us this morning on another episode of Talent Talks. I am your host, Emily Alvarez, and I am very excited today to have Coach James Bonds, probably one of the greatest names for a speaker ever, joining us on the show today. He is up in the Pacific Northwest, beautiful Oregon. And James is a certified speaker, performance coach, and leadership strategist, and founder of WellDrivenLife, another amazing name for a company that comes a little bit off the James Bond reference. If you don't know, look up Jack London, just a little hint. But James, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Emily. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad for this conversation. Is that people need us to do what we do, so I'm here to do what we do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Well, today we're talking about an interesting topic. We have had a bit of a warm up to this conversation, but we're talking about the C-suite today and C-suite leadership. But we're going in kind of an interesting direction with this because as we've discussed, C-suite leadership has an interesting role today in organizational development in that they really kind of set the bar for culture as far as cultural emergence in organizations, because culture is the people, right? It's the foundational people in an organization. It's what everybody has inside of them, all the people and what they bring to the organization. That's the culture. And C-suite really, to me, and I'll get your opinion on this, but to me, they really are the driving force behind this not being cosmetic and being really the driver of how beautiful this can be in shaping an organization, making it unique, and also consistency in bringing that forward every day and doing things that can bring that culture forward. But with how kind of screwy some of these companies and organizations have gotten, I think we're at a point where sometimes we have to have some uncomfortable conversations surrounding culture to really get to know our people, right? And I think my opinion is that's kind of what's missing today. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it is. I think because people don't realize, it's really, in, I would say the 80s and 90s and going forward, that the C-suite has more power, meaning they usually have direct access more so than say the 500 or 10,000 employees to the CEO, to the board, to top leadership. So
Right.
C-suite is really, upper middle management, so to speak, or upper level management. So what they think, how they process, and how they implement has a huge effect on you, right? On the culture, on the company status, performance. So if they're not instructed, if they're not grown properly, if they're not led properly, if they're not informed properly, then it could be chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. I think expand on that a little bit when you say grown properly, because that's interesting. Um, there's definitely a difference, and I've noticed this in companies I've worked for over the years or organizations, coming from very corporate driven companies and then more founder led
Yes.
organizations. Um, you can tell, and I think this is in people in general, you can tell a lot of times people who have been introspective at
Yes.
certain points in their lives. And I think that's what you're touching on, right? Is that
Yes.
introspection. So talk a little bit
Yes.
about when we look inward. C-suite has an interesting, um, I feel like, I don't want to say obligation, but they definitely have a duty, I would say,
Yes.
at this
Yes.
stage
Yes.
of what's happening globally, domestically, in the
Correct.
world today of what's going on to they have a duty to look inward.
They
So
do. I think that's one thing I think that, that people don't understand is that I want you to come into my company, understand my culture. Culture meaning that why I started, why I'm still here, and what my goal is for each of my team members, set employees, team members, whatever you want to call it nowadays. Okay, see, come in C-suite, but the C-suite team, of course, again, you are to make sure that we're driving the number because guess what? Matrix is how we stay alive, so to speak.
right,
So understand my culture, but when you come in, you don't need to come in and say, okay, we're doing this wrong, that wrong. Make it more efficient. So that sometimes the C-suite comes in and they bring in their damage because they're human beings from previous positions. They bring in their fear. And now they don't understand that when I brought you on, I explained to you my company culture is zero fear,
right,
but you have personal fear. So me as a CEO, as a company owner, I need to make sure that I send you to get some more growth training, not assume that your resume, your character, yes, got you in the door. Now I have to make sure that I continue to grow your skill set and not just assume that you're okay with life. Because my point, I've always said this, it's kind of people say it's kind of old fashioned, but when I hire somebody, I'm responsible for your kids eating, your spouse eating, your pet eating, and your home life as far as your attitude, so to speak, as much as I can be in control, of course.
yeah,
So I need to make sure that when I see you, we don't do enough PIs today's market because it's not cost efficient on people. So I believe in PI, personal index.
right,
So if I know that okay, I need my company structured, my C-suite needs to be all between. I'll just set a disc for now. It needs to be DISC. But if I do this and I continue because I'm a D, we
right,
hire ourselves. It's a human nature. We do that.
right,
Well, if I don't dive deep into your growth and I hire all D's or all I's, my company cannot perform. It
right,
cannot grow. It's impossible
right.
because we're all eating the same thing. We can't grow eating the same thing. So I have to make sure that as a leader, that I find out, okay, how can I, if you're a C, how can I make you sensitive to a S, to an I, to a D? So
Right.
I don't want you to tolerate. I want you to learn how exactly what this person needs to function. And that's
Yeah.
what I mean by growth.
Yeah, and I love that you said that specifically around hiring people like us, right?
Yes.
I've found over the years that's very dangerous to do because
Yes.
what we're talking about in that is a specific kind of bias called an attrition bias, right? Where we hire people that are exactly like us. Or they might have one, specific trait that's like us is a halo bias that we're like attracted to that we want to, hone in on. And that's the only thing that we, want to do. And then we don't get challenged, right? Or we end up doing this with the person because they're
Yes.
so much like us that we end up picking out all the things that we're like, man, I hate that about that person. But really it's like holding a mirror up to ourselves, right?
Yes.
But I think in those cases, um, what tends to end up happening is then we go back to, did we really understand the culture of our company in the first place?
Yes.
Do we have an understanding of what the foundational values are of our company in the first place? Because
Yes.
with a lot of companies, I would say like when an owner or founder starts a company or a CEO, whatever you want to call them,
Yes.
someone starts an organization or a company, I would argue that the person they are when they start that company is probably, if the company survives, is not going to be the person they are 5 years from then, 10 years from
Right.
then, 15 years from then. And so as they mature or and as the organization matures, the people might come and go, culture might change as the people come in and come out. Your core values, though, should be in alignment for the
Yes.
most part with
Yes.
what you emulate every day.
Yes.
People you hire should be in alignment with those values.
Yes.
And if you're not hiring in accordance with those values, you're going to have a problem with your culture through every step of the way throughout the rest of eternity. And then this is just going to be a systemic problem from then on out in your organization. And you're going to have either rapid turnover or
Yes.
you're going to have very unhappy employees. Your product's going to suffer, your clients are going to suffer, whatever it's going to be a downward spiral, right?
Yeah, that
And
happens a
so
lot. Yes.
my question with all of this is, do we really think that a lot of C-suite spend the time to really understand what the culture of their company really is? Because values and culture are two different things.
Yeah, they don't. That's why I think it's so important. Having a company a couple of years ago, I actually had them go back and do retreats.
Right.
And we got to understand one thing about America, about the world in general. We have to get back. People say this all the time. It's kind of a cliche. We have to at some point get back to the basics.
Right.
What I mean by that is we have to spend that time so that upper middle management understands that the owner is not just talking just to him or herself talking.
Well,
It
they
happens so
sometimes
much.
do, and they can't. If that's
Yes.
if that's what they're
Yes.
doing, they have to, something in the ego is out of
Exactly. And
whack.
that's but see the thing that I remember years ago, I was at this networking event, and one of the owners of the major corporations there, and his son was taking over. He's gonna retire, and his son was in the room trying to find a buyer for an organization.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there saying to myself, the guy was in the owner, his dad was just, he was just brokenhearted. And I'm
Right.
saying to myself, sir, so he asked, I said, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna say something that might insult you or hurt your feelings, but you need to know this. So,
Right.
so you can understand where you are in life. So you're getting ready to retire. Your son is 30, mid to upper 30. I said, what part can you look yourself in the face and honestly say, you missed the transition? He's like, oh, did you did you make him start, sweeping the floor? Did
Yeah.
you make him start, delivering mail in the mailroom? Did you make him start? You did not,
Right.
because you wanted something better. So you sent him to college, get his degree in business. He came in charge.
Right.
So some people, again, goes back to even our own relatives, whatever. Did you make him go through courses? Did you send him to
Right.
Zig Ziglar? Did you send him to Stephen Covey? Because he has to grow. All he knows is I'm rich, whatever that means. All he knows is that I went to college with a German high-end German sports car. I didn't go to college with a 10, 20-year-old Honda Accord trying to make it run every day. So he comes in the building. All he sees, unfortunately, it's not his fault, but it's ingrained in him. He sees dollar signs. How can
Right.
we make more money?
Right.
He doesn't see human beings because you missed that. The opportunity to say, let me help you see these people mean something to me. They're not just employees. To him, they're employees. To you, they're family members, they're team members. So I said, this is what most companies do. They don't take time to have their children go through the process and understand, have them go serve at the soup kitchen or things. Again, they sound silly, but they're not silly,
Right.
because they're part of understanding the culture of my company is to make sure that my local soup kitchen never has an empty cupboard. I don't
Right.
care what it costs. It's on my P&L statement. I don't care. The thing, as you know, with homeless, socks and underwear. My
Yeah.
my account, I should have a hard line on my account. Again, my opinion, in my area, to where I have a hard account where Walmart, whoever, they're supplying these people every month with a certain amount of these things, and I'm just writing a check for it.
Right.
Because it's not about being the super humanitarian. It's about, what is your company culture. I don't even, if your company culture is children, YMCA always has shoes for kids who don't have shoes, plenty of basketballs, plenty of pickleball. I mean, so it's whatever that is,
Right.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
But again, but your C-suite needs to come in the door knowing your first month is going to be volunteer.
Right. Yeah. And I
Your
think,
first thing, yeah, they don't do enough.
yeah, and I think that's the thing is it's a conversation that can be uncomfortable for leadership if they've never asked the question.
Yes,
It can be difficult, especially if it's a larger organization because you do
yes,
have so many different individuals. And especially in today's workforce, we have this large generational spread, right?
yes,
But
yes.
there is going to be commonality between a 65-year-old and a 25-year-old. You just have to figure out what it is.
Always commonality.
The
Yes,
only way that we're going to do that is to open up the dialogue about it. Because I
yes,
guarantee you, to your point, it may be that as a company, we have the same values that everybody in this company enjoys getting together and doing service projects together. It may be that as a company, we all want to better ourselves in learning about, I don't know, whatever it is. So we do lunch and learns.
yeah,
It may
yeah,
be that, and it may be something that organizationally, we used to do this at Applicant Pro, that our CEO and founder was, Ryan used to be he used to own Applicant Pro, and he spent, I want to say it was a $500,000 a year on cleaning bonuses for our company because we were like
yes,
80% women,
yes,
75% women. And
yes.
so working moms, who doesn't want to have somebody come in and clean their
That's
house
right.
once a month?
That's
You know,
right.
and especially a lot of our moms at the company had, like, sometimes three, four, five kids
Yes,
and a husband that worked and like dogs running around. And like,
yeah,
to have someone come in and clean your house once a month is
yes.
like a blessing from the heavens.
It's a mental health relief,
It
literally.
is,
Yeah,
it's mental health relief. And
yes,
but you only get to that by asking, like, what is important to you as a
yes,
company? Do you want to do a travel bonus once a year? But
yes,
we have to ask these types of questions. We have to get to the root of, like, what is important to our people. And some of these things may be relatively low lift. You don't necessarily
yes,
have to spend $500,000 a year because some companies can't afford to do that. But a lot of companies can afford to do certain things like buy your team lunch once a week,
that's
or
right. That's right.
do like there's a company here in Southern Utah that does like Fridays the whole team leaves the building together and they all go and like go to a park and walk around.
Yeah.
There's like a whole lot of stuff you can do that's felt
Yes,
relatively low lift, but I
yes,
think what sometimes happens is the leaders feel like maybe it's too far gone, or maybe if they stick their head in the sand, it'll go away.
yes,
Maybe my managers will just solve this problem individually
yeah,
because these are siloed departments. There's
yeah,
a lot of different things I think that can go into it, but the biggest challenge to C-suite I have is consistency.
yeah, yeah. And
Something,
that's, yeah, yeah,
figure out what it is, talk to your people, pick something and be consistent with it, but it's got to be aligned with your company values.
yeah, yeah.
You have
And
to
that's one
turn
thing
those
that,
gears and you have to pull the threads and figure out which thread is impactful.
yes, yes, we had that. I had an issue with that years ago. I had a company I owned in Florida, and I remember it was such a diverse company. And I
Hmm.
remember sometimes you would hear things like, why would you-" so I said, okay, let me figure out this one thing everybody does is eat. Everybody eats.
Everybody,
So what I did was I had each particular employee from a different part of the world every Friday for like 3 months straight.
yeah,
They would cook their cultural dish and serve it.
yeah,
On top of that, I paid that employee for an 8 hour day for preparing their food at home, bringing it for lunchtime, and taking the
yeah,
rest of the day out. So I
yeah.
prepared that. So it was amazing how much people were like, "Oh, I didn't know. I thought you ate. I didn't know this was. I didn't know this tastes." So that sounds simple, but it opened up dialogue that you would not believe.
And it's a sense of cultural pride, right?
Yes,
If I
yes,
make my, if I make my, grandmother's latkes and I bring them in,
yes.
that opens up a dialogue,
It
right?
does. Yeah, it does. Yeah,
So yeah, I agree with you.
yeah,
I
it
agree.
was it's something that's simple. Then we start. Okay, let's have a a company picnic. Let's shut it down for that. And let's have people meet other people's kids and kind of. It was just it's amazing because I was working with this CEO of Midwest, and he was just like, I'm frustrated. Why? Because I've been doing this for 43 years, and I don't say that people are so sensitive now.
Right.
I said, sir, that's not correct. What do you mean? I said, people are sensitive. You have refused to become sensitive.
Right.
What do you mean? I said, because you're telling me that you can't say certain things. I said, yeah, it's the world we live in.
Right.
So you have to be sensitive yourself, not saying that they're oversensitive.
Right.
Because I said, or you got to sell the company.
Right.
It's as simple as that. Simple
Yeah.
as that. Because
Yeah.
1973 has never come back again.
Well, the other option, and I think this is where and I'm going to change directions into this because this is where I think this is a important thing to note for C-suite. And I think when it comes to leadership that might have some of these inconsistent or maybe outdated org values, because like I was saying, I think that organizations, their values should, for the most part, be pretty consistent as far as like the core values, right?
Yes,
But I think
yes,
when culture shifts in a company, you also have cultural values that are important to
yes,
people. And
yes,
leadership cannot be performative about
yes.
those things because it can't, in other words, it can't just be to tick a box because people know when you're full of shit and they know when you're ticking a box
They do. Yeah, they do.
versus, and then you just erode leader or you erode trust. And
Yes.
then people just disengage further. They get more burned out because they just are like, I can't trust
Yes.
you, right? Or
Yes.
if you see this ladder succession, and then it's like, most people are either good at managing products or people. Some people are okay with both, but very rarely,
Yeah.
and so that can erode trust too, depending on that. But I think the other option besides walking away from the company is some of these leaders, I really believe, need to just walk away temporarily, disengage, and let some of their leaders delegate
Yeah.
some of this stuff and maybe delegate it out and say, you know what? I'm maybe micromanaging this too much. I maybe am not taking my hands off the wheel and
Yes.
letting other people with other perspectives walk in here and ask some of these questions.
Yeah.
It could be an ego thing. I see that actually more times than not. I think ego
Yeah.
gets in the way. It's my company. I know
Yes.
best. I know
Yes.
how to do it all. I see this because I'm obviously work with AI. Uh,
Yes.
we work with companies who want to bring in AI adoption. They have no freaking clue how. And we come in and we tell them, like, this is our recommendation. This is what we want you to do because we know this is how this is going to work for you. And they're like, we don't want to do that. And it's like, well, then
Yeah.
why the hell did you bring us in here? It's like
Yes.
consulting, right? You come into a company and you give them advice on how to do something because they're paying you to do that, and they say, I don't want to do
Yes.
it. Why did
Yeah.
you call me in here then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have to
Yeah.
have an uncomfortable conversation of your ego's out of control. Like,
Yes.
walk away,
That's right.
delegate stuff out, and like let us, you brought me in to solve a problem.
Right.
Let me attack this in the ways that are going to work because clearly your way is not working.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, but that's just that's the thing about that doesn't because like you said, it's egos are so huge. You have to have a set of some humility, and that's
Yes. Uh-oh.
so what's going on with this? And all of a sudden, and all of a sudden they're like, well, we got your recommendation, but we're not going to do that. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, but what you just wasted money and more so wasted my time, which I can't get
Right.
back. The
Right.
next time I need to do more. I need to do more, deep diving myself before I go into more vetting because I don't need to waste my time. I
Right.
appreciate the money, but I'm here for the money. I'm here to grow those in my sphere.
Right.
And so, you called me because you wanted to grow. It's like, did you really want to grow? It's like, I'm thinking, but you're right. It's one thing, and the one company that I can say again that I've experienced before, doing training before for them, and then being invited to sit in on some sessions with their executives is like I said before. It's Tesla does a great job. We feel about how that is what it is. But in the day, as a corporation, I made the inside at one point. I was impressed with the process is the process, and then
Right.
also being involved at being invited to a Chick-fil-A situation, and then just reading Mr. Cafe's book, and then being invited. Like, how do you have this same profile all over the country? Why are your lines in your drive-through 2, 3 deep around the building every day at lunchtime?
Right.
Because you've told the culture, my pleasure, my pleasure, my
Right.
pleasure, my
Right.
pleasure, my pleasure. Well, thank you for walking around, not worrying about the inefficiency of having a person, maybe a retired person, walk around your showroom or your area and get a refill for you.
Right.
Something simple. They did that back at McDonald's back in the old days, so to speak,
Right.
but it wasn't efficient. So we stopped doing it. So
Right.
now I'm getting a retired person, or either a person maybe too young to register, just going around refilling drinks. Just the
Right.
experience, like you said earlier, about having moms. My kids playing in the play area there. I don't have time to get them to go get a drink and watch my kid at the same time. Or
Right.
a single dad, both sides same thing. So I get to have my drink refilled, continue to watch. So again, it's about the experiences that
Yes.
people are willing to pay for. But a company comes in. I had a company out in the in the southwest. Well, I mean, so my people won't come back to work after the pandemic. Come back to work. Let me look at your. So review this whole company P&L. Well, your sales actually are still ticking up. What come back for what? Well, my executive team wants it back. Okay, well, let me go talk to the executive team. Again, I'm big on PIs. Gave them all the personal index. Your whole team is type A. What do you mean? I said, yeah, it's not necessarily a good thing.
Right.
They want people back at work so they can go to the cubicle, to the office, and talk about how was your weekend, man? How was weekend? Like, that's what they want, interaction
Right.
versus growth. So guess what? If your team is performing, let them stay at home if they're
Yeah.
performing.
Yeah.
Because guess
1,000%.
what? During that time, people figured out I'm at home. I got less daycare, less gas expenses, less lunch expenses, and I enjoy getting my job done. I can do my job. Some people can't work at home. Let's not be unreal about that. Some people
Yeah.
can't.
Right.
But some people got used to it and they were good at it. So my thing at this company, I say, if they're productive, don't make them come back, because you keep calling folks up to get back to work right away, and they're resigning on the phone. They're resigning because they figured out I can make this whatever money stretch. I'll make it another 10, 20 grand a year based off of expenses being cut down.
Right.
So if
Right.
they're performing, like earlier, if they're performing and your profits take it up, what do you have this conversation for?
Right. Yeah, and it's a great point. I mean, we COVID shifted a lot of the way that we thought about work, right? It was kind of the beginning of the shift in the way that we thought about the act of work and the framework of where we go to do work and how we do it. And I think what you're talking about is building systems that reward contribution and not conformity.
Yes.
And we have to look at the culture of like what specific events shape like work, which
That's
I
right.
mean, AI is an example. It's a disruptor, right?
Yes.
It's going to come in and disrupt the way that we think about work and the way we do work. But I
Right.
also believe it's a unifier in a lot of
Yes.
ways.
Yes.
And it has the ability to be a unifier. But I believe very strongly that um, the C-suite individuals who stand in the way of the contribution that people are trying to give, having grown accustomed to working in certain situations, is
Yeah.
going to really bite them.
Yes.
It's going to come back to bite them.
Yes.
And we should be thinking about stopping the promotion of just one style of doing things.
Yes.
We have to be more agile in the way that
Yes.
we're thinking about work and the way we're
Yes.
designing work. And again, not forcing people back into boxes,
Yes.
especially on the employer end, if as the employer we haven't made any changes.
Yes.
That's the thing.
That's the key.
We've
That's the
we've
key.
asked people to make so many changes and then we're remiss in changing. That doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me. And
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense because, there's a transparency issue there.
Yes.
And again, it boils down to trust. If employees don't have transparency, they don't have trust, ergo they don't buy in.
That's right.
And
Buy-in.
it's a simple formula.
To
And
buy-in.
so it's much better to be rigorously transparent with people. And that includes not only wins, but failures or missteps, because it's always so much smarter, in my opinion, in business to play the long game, which is what you're talking
Yes.
about with Chick-fil-A, right?
Yes.
The reason they have three deep at lunchtime is
Yeah.
because they were consistent over time. They
Yes.
looked at, you know what? This model may not work right away. We might be like slower to start, but you know
Yeah.
what? Nice guys finish last. We're going to continue to say our pleasure. Have a nice day. We hope you come
Yeah.
back again. We're
Yeah.
going to, even in their commercials, I think they talk about like, actual employee experiences of like helping the
Yes.
community. Like
Yeah.
they play the long game. That
Yeah.
was Chick-fil-A's model. And they have a product that is like everybody loves Chick-fil-A. I think they were
Yeah.
rated like number 1 in like
Yes.
fast food or something for like
Yeah.
whatever. But and yeah, McDonald's is like top of the food chain because they've been
Yeah.
around forever.
Yeah.
But McDonald's like has had issues with their consistency over the years. And I mean, they
Yes.
also have 9 million things on their menu.
Exactly.
Chick-fil-A has like a quarter of the size menu, which probably
Exactly.
their food costs are way lower than
That's
McDonald's.
the key. Yes.
I
That's the
know
key.
about manufacturing, so I know what their profit margins probably
Yes.
look like on the
Exactly.
back end. But
Exactly.
the thing is, like, that's how a company with a learning and development culture wins every
Yes.
time with quality of product is you play the long game, you do the L&D up front, just like with
Yes.
AI, you do the L&D up front, and then you move it slower through the process because the payout on the end of doing that is in spades.
Yes.
When you rush in the beginning,
Yes.
you end up shooting yourself in the foot because
Yes.
you never took the time to understand your people, your culture, your product, the steps, everything.
Yes.
It's a disaster.
It is. It is. And
You
it's
want
so
to
funny
take
you
that
said it
time with
because it's
yourself too.
yeah. I mean, but see, it's always been so simple because of the fact of people pay for service. And we've
Yes.
lost track of that whole. It's like people. I asked one guy. I said, "Okay, she's telling me. So, what's the difference in let's just say Ruth Chris? What's the Ruth Chris versus fast food? It's fine dining, but a
Yeah.
hamburger is technically a steak.
Right.
So why are you paying $99 for this hamburger when you get mad because McDonald's now is $6 for whatever hamburger? It's like because it's the experience. It's because people need to know. Because I told all the time going to all the companies, I said people walk into your place of business and they are monitoring your employee's attitude. Period.
Right.
I
Right.
don't care if it's the person that's holding the front door, the person that's sweeping the floor. They're monitoring their energy. And if the energy is off, they either leave or they won't come back a second. I
Right.
said, everything's off of repeat clientele. Whatever
Yeah.
you know, your core, how you say it, is still based off repeat clientele.
Yeah.
But we don't understand that's how it works. Like people, they're taking the energy, they're taking it. So if your employees aren't content, happy is it's almost like mystical now. That word is so misused. I'll say content. If they're not, and also like we talked, we kind of a little bit about the fact that attrition. We need to stop promoting people for attrition and
Mhm.
promote them for character. Because
Yes.
I remember years ago when I went to a company, a new corp, when I was in the corporate world, the owner said, "I want to promote that guy. You new here, that guy been 21 years, promote him." So this guy called me to the side. I was talking, I was talking. He says, "Let's walk outside around the building." This guy
Yeah.
was been there 21 years, top performer in this particular business, and he started crying. He said, "If you promote me, I'll quit." And I was like, "What? Wait, what?" He says, "I don't want to be in charge of anybody. I'm good taking care of myself."
Yeah.
But the owner never had gave him room to say that. So I'm going to lose a top performer, which is going to affect my life if I promote this guy. So I figured out to help him get past his fear and then promote him, but gave him more responsibility, which helped me out,
Right.
but didn't give him more stress. Right?
Right.
Because what happens is that we always, again, always a big word, but we tend to promote people for attrition, or they're a top performer and we promote them and they don't want to be promoted. And as
Right.
we know, they last between 90 and 180 days. They
Yeah.
last only. It's
Yeah.
because a lot of people who are performers cannot transfer that skill set.
Right. Well, and it's a lot
I
of
know how
times,
to do it, but I can't
yeah.
transfer.
Well, and a lot of times, like back to that, it's because they, first of all, probably had a manager that they witnessed that was maybe not very happy, right, in that role.
Yes,
And they're
yes,
like, I don't want that responsibility because I saw what
that's
you
right.
did to that person, or I saw the way they treated me, and it was probably stress induced and burnout reduced, right? Induced. They were reduced to that because of what you did, like what they had on their plate, and I don't want that. Or back to, a lot of people are not good with other people, especially the younger generations that have grown up attached to one of these since they were like 4 years old. And
Yes,
so it's interesting because um we have a lot of individuals in the workforce now who have lost critical thinking abilities,
yes,
and also are in situations in companies where there is very low work-life balance or work-life rhythm
yes,
in their lives,
yes.
right? And so they're already struggling to find that. I read a really disturbing statistic the other day, or percentage, that said 56% of people that have PTO, paid time off in companies, don't even use their PTO
That's
because
right.
they feel like they can't, because of the amount of workload they have. They feel like if they leave, they won't ever get caught back up again. That's
Yes,
terrifying. And
yes.
I've been in that statistic, by the way.
Yeah,
And I'm sure most people have 56%. That's over half of the people that get paid time off. So over half of full-time employees, probably. So the point is, again, as C-suite level people, are we even asking our people, why are you here? What
right.
is your goal at this company? What do you want to achieve in your time here? Do you even want to be a manager? Do you
That's
even
right.
want to be promoted? Do you
That's
even want
right.
to be here in the next 5 years? What
Do
are
you
your
want to be?
goals? And if they want to be upskilled in certain ways, how can we help them achieve that when it comes to their job? Because I guarantee you, a lot of these people that are not good with other people, it's not because they don't want to be, it's
Yes.
because they were never taught the skills, or they were
Right.
never pushed outside their comfort zone to in situations where they feel like that is a relatively safe place. Because that's what a lot of people don't understand, is you can push people outside of their comfort zone, but for a lot of people, you still have to do that with a relative measure of safety, meaning like there has to be some sort of a safety net. It's like
Yes.
putting them on a trapeze, but like the very first time you put them on a trapeze, not having a safety net below them, they're not going to get on the trapeze, my friend.
That's right. They're not.
Like, you have to give them a safety net the first,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
several times until they get relatively good at it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Practice. But we can't just like shove people into that, because then they're going to not trust us, right?
Yes.
There's a
Yes,
balance, but we have to ask these difficult questions and we have to not be afraid of their response to them and not take it
that's
personally.
right.
Don't answer the question in the way we don't want to hear it
Yeah,
because
that's right. That's
it's
that's
not about us.
that's and that's when we realize when we realize that statement right there, it's not about us. It's about our customer base. It's about our clients. It's not about how it's that is so critically said that because
The
that's one
direct
thing.
correlation between clients and our employees, by the way.
Yes, yes, exactly. Because it makes. I remember I did this workshop for this company in the West, and it was kind of funny, but it was kind of funny scary because almost half of them presentation, one of the millennials stood up and she says, she was emotional. She said, "Are you in my head?" And I was like, "No, out of your head," because I did a presentation for this company. I did
Yeah.
it's called Millennials Are Not from Outer Space,
Oh my
and
gosh.
basically
Love it.
basically and they had an employees were supposed like maybe like I think 100 folks show up. The room was they were lined against the wall outside the glass because it was like I think almost 300 folks showed up for this presentation, which is awesome.
Right.
So
Yeah.
basically, I just said, and the point that I really got to where she just broke down, like, I'm sorry. I said, yeah, go ahead. She said, because I said the one thing that us folks who are a certain age and over, we don't understand that the world has not changed in a negative way. It's just changed for us to be us for our growth as well. So I said, okay, so if you're a certain age, if from I'm gonna give me an example. I said when I was working, my boss told me to move that chair over there. I moved it and kept it moving and kept it pushing.
Mhm.
A millennial is gonna say, why am I moving?
Right.
So you can't be offended by that. It
Right.
takes 30 seconds, and two things happen with that. The first part of you say, okay, well, you're moving it because the customer flow into the building, it's going to impede the flow.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. They might come back, which is not a bad thing. Well, sir, actually, if I move it over here, it's going to be better anyway. We have to take advice from people. We have to grow also.
Yes.
Because guess
Yes.
what? I don't when I know it all, I'm in trouble. And so
Yes.
I was like, they to all that to say, we just have to explain to certain folks need a deeper dive in the explanation. Just
Yes.
because I'm used to saying I guess the term old school, I'm saying, yes, sir, no problem. I'm moving. I'm missing because again, like you said a minute ago, I'm used to that previous boss saying, because I said freaking moving. So now I have a little bit like, I don't let me avoid conflict and just moving freaking chair.
Yeah.
But guess what? That millennial's gonna say, well, they're gonna pause and they're gonna pause, they're thinking, they're processing. And that's okay.
Right.
Because I, as a leader, as an owner, I may learn something from that. Not may, let me correct that. Not may, I will learn something.
I will learn something.
I
Yeah.
will learn something. Maybe my idea wasn't the best idea since sliced bread,
Thousand
or
percent.
they needed more detail. Both
Yeah.
times I learned something.
Yep.
But we quick to be like, well, I know this. They just don't listen. They do listen. That's the key. They're listening to you and listening to their thought process. And
Right.
nothing's wrong with that.
Well, and that brings me to an interesting thought that you just, and I think that's brilliant what you said because companies, organizations, the way we went to school, everything was built on stability. Yeah.
Yes.
And it was meant to, and I think you said this prior, feed our families, take care of our kids,
Yes.
take care of our dogs, our pets, our
Yeah.
animals, our
Yeah.
house, buy a house, do all these things,
Yeah.
have a white picket fence. It was the
Yeah.
American dream, right? This was
Right.
what was ingrained, the fairy tale in our heads.
That's right.
And so that was what it was expected of us, especially if you were Gen X, right?
Yes.
We are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so um we promoted doers
Yes. Yes.
because doers are what kept the stability going. We were the
That's
ones that
right.
ran the machines. We were the ones that ran the assembly lines. We were the ones that ran the companies and ran the teams and,
Yes.
ran the restaurants and the department stores. And we did all of that, and now we're in an age where the technology is changing, We're not
Yes.
plugging stuff into a search engine anymore. We're plugging it into ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or whatever you're using. We're looking at things differently. Even the way they
Yes.
teach math is different now, right? The
Yes.
way
Yes.
we learned it.
Exactly.
So, we now are looking at things from a agility standpoint,
Yes.
innovation, thinkers. We want
Yes.
to promote thinkers because we don't have a whole lot of those people around.
We don't.
Think about it. There's not a ton of like Elon Musk's running around the planet or Bill
No, there's
Gates is
not.
running around the planet or Jeff Bezos is running around the planet. You know,
Yeah.
there's not a lot
Yeah.
of those types of people running around just like free pickings, right? So we've promoted all these doers, not a ton of thinkers, not a ton of agility innovators, right? And now that's what we're in desperate need of.
Yes.
That's extremely uncomfortable
Yes.
for the older generations
Yes.
where like our parents were like, just do it. Because I
That's
told
right.
you so. I
That's
told
right.
you so.
That's
Now
right.
go drink hose water and don't eat the lead paint chips. That was our time,
Exactly.
right? And
Exactly.
so we grew up very different where we were told, just do it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
now when we get questioned as Xers, I think we kind of understand it because our kids are millennials and like,
Yes.
and they are like, why,
Yeah. Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Because, you know, so now when I approach people, I'm like, I just come with the why already, or
Yeah.
come with a couple of whys, or I'll just say like, I'll run like a mastermind or like a
Yes.
group where I'm like, someone else lead this discussion today because I just, you know, you're like, everybody's a master of something.
Yes.
And
Yes.
everybody
Exactly.
probably has more ideas. If there's 10 of us in a room, there's 10 ideas floating around and they don't have to be mine.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And
In fact, I would
that's yeah.
prefer it wasn't mine. Can I have
That's
a
right.
break, please? My brain needs to like
That's
not,
right. That's
you
right.
know?
That's right.
But not a lot of leadership thinks like that. And I think it's because it's an intimidation factor. It's like if I give these people free rein to do this, are they going to upstage me? Are they going to you know, think about something different? Or am I gonna have to cater to them or whatever? And it's just there's an uncomfortability again in having some of these conversations. It's uncomfortable. And people don't like to be put in uncomfortable situations. So it's definitely an interesting state that we're going to have to I think rebuild in leadership, and I think we may have lost James. Uh-oh.
Oops.
Oh, there you are. Oh, no
Okay.
problem. No, I was just saying we're gonna have to make some changes in leadership kind of based on, you know, this communication style. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Exactly. That's
get on
right.
people and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But we can't stick our head in the sand and pretend like it doesn't exist. That's the
That's
worst
correct.
we can do because again, it's just gonna like erode more trust.
Yeah. And that's one thing I think that, that's one thing that we don't really take time to understand that, that take time to understand the processes. Everybody has to grow every single day.
Hmm.
And the one thing we don't realize is nothing wrong with that. We all have to grow.
No.
Everybody's so caught up into where we to the point where we care too much about what people think about us instead of understanding that it's okay that you think this way because you have your own construct.
Right.
I can't change your construct,
Yep.
but I can let you know that okay. Like, and one thing personally, me, I remember my first manager said something. This guy was just a good human being. It's not just I was really fortunate to have that. My first manager. He says, "Hey, young man, you'll go far because you're a national leader." I said, "Well, it's not. I can see it in you because people like to listen to you, and that's just the leader off the top." He said, "But going forward, your career, always hire folks smarter than you." I'm like, "What does that mean? Like smarter? Always hire folks smarter than you?" I'm like, "What does that mean?" And I've done that in my whole career and have been extremely successful because I don't care if you want my job. Come get it. I don't. I don't care if you're smarter than me. let's go at it.
Yeah.
Because for that, but see, most people don't. I've always been. I was afraid. I'm like, why are you afraid of? And I was like, I never knew what that meant. And honestly, it took me about, I would say, probably 8 years, 10 years, roughly, to understand what he meant.
Right.
But I did it anyway. Not understand. I did it persistently, but didn't really get it, what it meant until like then he said, okay, I'm also, as a matter of fact, too. He says you're also a doer too much because it's in your DNA. So he
Right.
took time and it sent me to I think it was Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie to learn delegation.
Yes. Delegation in leadership is so important. Yes. Thank you so much for saying that. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. He's like, I was like, I took, and then sent me to the 6 week course, which was long. He's like, because you get it, but you also have a tendency, let me show you how it's done, and then you do it all. And then, oh, I'll show you how it's done, and then you do it all. So what your team can't grow from that. Now
Yes.
you're performing, your matrix is up, you're making your profit is up. But the ultimate thing is you want to have people where if you leave, the same thing happens. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what is that? If you leave and so I got to the point where when I got it, I was like, oh, this is great. So when I would go somewhere, rather be on another company, in a board meeting or whatever, go to whatever convention, I tell my team when I'm gone, do not freaking call me. What do
Yep.
you mean? I
Yeah.
said, make a decision. If you make
Yes.
a decision and you give the store away, I'll buy another one. If you make a decision, you can. I said, but when we come back, I do want to sit down with you and
Right.
get your point of view on that decision.
Yeah.
Because if I did a good job of making sure my culture was in place, that decision is going to be based around my culture.
Yeah.
I want
Yep.
robots, but I do want you to base it off. But I do want to get back. I do want to sit down with you. Let's deep dive into why you chose A, B, why you chose B instead of C.
Yep. Yeah. It's
As we go into this process of why you made B decision or C decision.
mm, oh, I don't think we froze again.
Okay, oops, lost it. Gets weird. I
There we
must have
go.
something going on here somewhere. But anyway, so I've been fortunate enough to to have people say, okay, if I'm gone at a meeting, whatever, make a decision.
Yeah.
And when we come back, I do want to deep dive into, okay, well, why did you choose to go with B instead of C or
Right.
A? So I can make, because if I did a good job as a leader of instilling my culture when I hired you, then you know how I would process this or how I would process that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to worry about, okay, well, why would you tell that is the dumbest thing ever. I think
Yeah.
about that because at the end of the day, I would automatically know, okay, he or she made this because yeah, that makes sense. I may look at it this way, but the point is to make a decision. And
Yeah.
that's my thing is always make a decision.
Yes.
Make
Yeah.
a
I
decision.
love that. Yeah. Delegation, so important, difficult to learn, especially if you're a control, someone that's a type A, used to being in control, very difficult to learn,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
crucial. It's crucial, especially in leadership, if you have to step away from like it for an unseen reason, that's
Oh
so
yeah, yeah,
important. I think it's a good note to end on. 5-year view, it's like consistent values, know your values, have some sort of informed strategy for your
yeah,
people. Like, what does that look like for, your culture, for traumas, if your
yes,
people, including yourself, if something happens, how do you delegate? What does that look like?
yes,
And can your people step in and handle it? Do they have the resources? Do they have the
yes,
procedures laid out that they need to follow? Do they know how to do their jobs? Do they know what's expected of them? Is there that transparency there? Um,
yeah,
Especially around their metrics and the things that they're
yeah,
being asked to complete. And that goes for people metrics too.
Yes.
Do we know how to talk to them about, you know, their engagement and what they want to see, not only what we're expecting from them, but what they expect from us. Like we
That's
have to
right.
take
That's right.
accountability for what we give to our people in our organizations. But more importantly, I think for leadership, take some time off, go inward, come back
Yes.
human.
Yes. And that's why it's so important. I think that like I said a minute ago, that we have to own our crap. I was doing a training at one of the companies years ago, and
Yeah,
I trained it, and I missed a step in this employee conversation, and I had to have a client to meet me over in Germany like that next week. So, but
yeah,
I missed the fact that I didn't train my staff member that last statement to tell the client he needs to make sure he gets this ticket. So I
yeah,
knew that, you know what, I believe there's a chance I missed this. So I took now my company credit card, my personal credit card, and bought this client a ticket to Germany within a week, which cost me $3,300. I didn't write it off, but the point is, the employee from that point on was unbelievable performer because
yeah,
he saw me as leader step up to the plate and say, you know what? I believe I missed this in the process. I'm
yeah.
not
You
going to
got it.
write off on the company credit card. I'm
Yep.
going to own it like crap. I'm going to pay for it myself out of my own pocket. And at that point, the respect for that, the trust for the employee went up. The client never knew because it's not his business to know. It's I
What do
own
we
my
do?
part of it. He was
Yeah,
at the event. I'd be at the event with me. He was there. Plane ticket came along. He didn't need to know when I bought it. Just need to know. He said,
yeah.
"Here's your ticket."
Just get on the plane.
Yeah, yeah. But see that again. We have to own our position,
Right.
our responsibility, but also own our staff performing or underperforming.
Yeah. It's called grace, right? We're human. We have to
Yes,
see each other as human first. It's grace. We give each other
yes,
grace. We give ourselves grace. We give
yes.
full grace because that is what is needed.
And know who your team members are. If you have that person
Yeah.
answering the phones for 25 years and no one promoted,
Know
find
their
out why
name
they
right
find
out
out
loud.
why they're yeah, find out why they're there.
Yeah.
Find out you should know if your company is, I would say 5 to maybe 50 people, you should know kids' names, dog
Yeah.
names, you should know that. Just no excuse for that. Just it's this
Yeah.
has not changed. And again, go back to having conversations with find out what people are in your company for. Everybody's not there for the money. Everybody's hiring. Some people are there for the culture. So understanding
Yes.
if that's the case, let them present
Love
at
it.
your team meeting why they love the culture.
Yeah.
You'd be
Yeah.
amazed.
And if they don't, be okay with being
That's right.
open to that too and be
That's right.
willing to do something about it.
That's right.
So awesome. Well, Coach James Bonds,
Yeah.
thank you. It's
Thank
been an
you.
absolute pleasure having you.
My
And
pleasure.
I would love to continue the conversation in the future and
Anytime.
an amazing rest of your day. You
You
can
too.
find James on LinkedIn. Coach James Bonds. He has WellDrivenLife. That's welldrivenlife.com. And yeah, the episode will be up on Talent Talk soon, so you can catch it there on our YouTube channel. And we'll also have it on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. So thank you so much for listening, James. Again, thank you so much for being here and have a
Thank you.
fabulous rest of your day.
You too. Thank you for your time.
James brought so much wisdom to this conversation, from his unique perspective on delegation to that powerful story about owning his mistake with the Germany ticket. Here's what I want you to walk away with. First, James's insight that it's not about tolerance, it's about understanding. Stop trying to just get along with different perspectives and start actually learning from them. Second, if you're in leadership, ask yourself, do you know your people's kids' names, their dogs' names? If your company's under 50 people and you don't, James says there's no excuse. Leadership is personal, and culture starts with knowing who you're actually leading. And third, that delegation lesson James learned. Always hire people smarter than you, and when you're away, tell your team, do not call me make a decision. Then come back and dive deep into why they chose what they chose. That's how you build leaders, not followers. The uncomfortable conversations James talks about, they're not optional anymore. Whether it's about bias, generational differences, or why half your team won't use their PTO, these discussions are what separate thriving cultures from surviving ones. You can find Coach James Bonds on LinkedIn and at WellDrivenLife.com. If this conversation challenged you to think differently about leadership and culture, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And leave us a review. It helps other leaders find these important discussions. Thanks for listening to Talent Talks.